The next bill I'd like to talk about that I filed is concerning identity theft. Just as we need to protect our electronic records from unwarranted searches and seizures, we also have to protect our electronic records from identity theft in this digital age. That's why I filed Senate 793, an act to protect the Commonwealth's residents from identity theft. All of us have heard of family, friends, constituents that have had situations of identity theft. And in fact, my sister last year, who lives in a group home, experienced this of somebody taking her Social Security number and using it. It's a growing problem in the United States, and thousands of Massachusetts residents are affected by this each year. Yet right now, in many areas of the law regarding identity theft, it remains neglected or incomplete, leaving our residents very vulnerable. The bill simply, just to summarize, attempts to close gaps in current law by updating and shoring up personal information protections, such as the when to use Social Security numbers or when not, targeting commonly used identity theft tactics, such as, we've heard all the stories about the use of ATM machines and plugging in that piece in the center to copy your ATM number. It would address issues and encouraging stronger cooperation among law enforcement, and it also addresses training officers on how to handle identity crimes, which even in the best of circumstances, our police forces are bearing the burden of dealing with a lot of crimes. This is a newer crime, and I think that training is helpful. It creates a comprehensive legal framework for preventing and prosecuting identity theft, and I ask that that be reported out favorably. And then the next one I will mention very briefly because the DA addressed this, to DA Ryan. One of the bills that I filed, several concerning domestic violence, but the one on repeat offenders is my Senate bill that I filed with the help of Middlesex DA Ryan. And it also helps the law enforcement better enforce the current statute dealing with assault and battery on a family or household member. It would address the penalties, increasing the penalties, where there is previously, the defendant, the accused, has been previously convicted of certain crimes. And it says specifically the enumerated crimes in the statute to make it more clear and to help our victims of domestic violence. And I think that this is an important bill that needs to be passed soon. The other one I filed, courthouse safety. It's an act to enhance the security in all courthouses, which increases penalties for anyone convicted of violent or disruptive acts in judicial hearings and proceedings in order to better protect our court officials, our judges, the public, and the efficiency of the legal system. Those are my 4 bills that I asked that you report out favorably, and then the following I just want to mention. I also want to support a bill that I co-sponsored, the Transgender Public Accommodation Bill. Currently, businesses are able to discriminate against people seeking goods, services, or access to a facility on the basis of gender identity without facing any consequences. And the Senate 643 requires all places of public accommodation to refrain from discrimination based on gender identity. It also mandates that any establishment that lawfully separates access to public accommodations based on sex must accommodate people in a manner consistent with their gender identity. And we already prohibit gender identity discrimination in the workplace, public schools, and through hate crimes. And this bill is the next logical step to ensure that equal treatment is provided to all of our citizens of the Commonwealth. Lastly, I just want to mention an act to prevent farm animal cruelty is another bill, Senate 741, that requires that any cage for a sow or calf be large enough that the animal has enough room to turn around and fully stretch out its limbs. It's narrowly tailored, it's a good bill, and it follows the emerging trends of other states and companies across the state. Also, I want to ask you to support Senate 718 for public employee safety, and Senate 631, an act decriminalizing nonviolent and there are many folks here. And lastly, I just want to ask you all to say a loud no to House 1565, an act relative to a woman's right to know. This bill would put the government squarely between a woman and her doctor, requiring a wide range of stall tactics, including a mandatory 24-hour waiting period, and it's a suitcase full of documentation that must be provided, and it's a scripted dialogue between the doctor and the patient. And this clearly should not be accepted, and it should not be adopted here in the Commonwealth. I would say it should be adopted anywhere in the country, but at least right here in the Commonwealth. This kind of intrusion into the personal reproductive decisions of Massachusetts women have absolutely no place in our state. So I thank you for this opportunity to testify. I know you have a long day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. We will call Representative Angle. I know you have a young constituent.
Today. I know it's a very busy day, and I want you all to know that I've learned a lot about shark finning in the last several months. But while I was sitting here, I also learned a lot about tic-tac-toe. Sean taught me a lesson. Quite a few games.
Sean, did you win?
Did you win the games? Yes, he did. Of course. So I filed House Bill 1520 on behalf of Sean Lesniak here, who is 8 years old, and I might add as a product of the whole public school system, so you can see the city of Lowell is doing well with their students. His brother Matthew is here, and his sister Megan is here to listen to him as well. And I'm just going to make one brief statement on it. I'm going to let Sean read his letter. The United States instituted the 2000 U.S. Shark Finning Prohibition Act. This act prohibits shark finning in federal waters and has received some international support as well. House 1520 seeks to further penalize offenders of this federal act by instituting additional state-issued funding penalties. So with that said, Sean drafted up something here. He's going to read it nice and loud to the committee, and I thank you for your time.
Hello everyone. The reason I am here today is I would like to ban shark finning in Massachusetts. It should be banned because shark populations are growing up to 99%, and it would take a long time for shark populations to recover. 30% of shark species today are threatened or near threatened with extinction. This is what they do when they fin a shark. Someone catches a shark, cuts off its fin, and throws the rest of the body overboard so the shark will suffocate and die. What they do with the fin is use it for shark fin soup. In the Gulf of Mexico, oceanic fork-tip sharks have declined by 99% due to shark finning. I would not like to see shark populations around Massachusetts waters follow the same as the Gulf of Mexico. Sharks grow slowly and peak kill up to 73 million sharks per year. Why sharks are legal in our oceans is because sharks keep our largest and most important ecosystem healthy as the apex predators of the oceans. The role of sharks is to keep other marine life in healthy balance, remove sharks that balance is seriously upset. Studies have already shown that regional extinction of sharks can cause horrible effects including the collapse of fisheries. If we keep allowing people to fin sharks, they will become extinct. Please ban finning to help not only sharks but us as well. When sharks are gone, they're gone for good. Thank you for all your time today on this very important need for a law on banning shark finning.
Good job.
Sean, for you, I will let them applaud. Thank you so much for coming, for speaking out for animals that cannot speak for themselves, for taking a day out of your summer vacation to come to the State House.
Chair, but I just want to point out that your speech resulted in our own committee violating our rules on applause, which is a good thing. And I want to say that thank you for your interest. You're very young, and in order for these species to survive, which we've been here for over 100 million years, as I'm sure you know, we're finding out their classes, it's important that you let people know how important it is as you are today. So I just want to thank you for taking the time to be here. Your shirt and tie looks lovely, and your haircut looks lovely, and you made a very good presentation, and I wish you the best of luck in your future. Thank you very much.
And you get one question.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Sean, I want to echo what was already said to me. I have one important question. I wanted to know if you start with X's or O's and where you place your first.
Representative, I'm doing the math in my head. Sean is 7 years old, so I think 8. Oh, I'm sorry, he's 8. And I think I got about 14 more years in this seat before he's ready to take it over from me. Thank you, members of the committee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Representative Spahn. Representative Fox.
Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, thank you for this opportunity to address your honorable committee. I'm here to testify in favor of 5 bills that I'm offering. And the first is House 1638, an act to establish the Massachusetts Innocent Division. 1639, relative to abuse prevention, that has to do with domestic violence prevention as well. The third one is 1640, an act to regulate to regulations requiring secure videotaping of the booking process of state police arrests. It is happening in other parts of our country, across Canada, and Massachusetts as well. The fourth one is an act criminalizing non-violent and verbal student misconduct. A number of our students being in criminal records as a result of being arrested in their school sometimes. As a matter of fact, it's false. And that is unfair to them, and we need to change that practice. The last one is House 1648, and I protect the innocent. While I'm addressing you, Madam Chair, I want to, and Mr. Chair, and I want to probably propose a bill that was mentioned, was addressed at length by my dear friend, Representative Pazal, when he talks about the criminal death penalty bill that he needs to go back and adequately involved in that bill. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon, committee. I am here in support of a number of bills, but I'll speak on only one, and that is Senate Bill 631. For the record, I'm State Representative Gloria Fox, and I represent the 7th Suffolk District in the city of Boston, basically Roxbury, a part of Mission Hill, a part of the Fenway, and the Audubon Circle area in the city of Boston. I'm supporting my bill, an act to decriminalize nonviolent and verbal student misconduct. We've been talking a lot about the violence and the issue of crime in all of our communities. It's not just germane to Boston, it's not just germane to Roxbury, but all over the Commonwealth this is an issue. One of the things that I think we should be doing is saving lives. And we need to save lives by keeping young people in school. And one of the problems that we have in the city of Boston and all over the Commonwealth is that there has been an antiquated, a number of laws that have been on the books that have encouraged teachers and others to push kids out of school. Now, most young people are in school to learn. Quiet as it's kept, the numbers are small compared to the numbers of young people that do want to be there to learn. The teachers go through a lot of problems, no doubt about it, with our oversized classrooms. We know that. But we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Young people cannot be in our streets unattended with nothing to do. We're blessed to have as many young people in the State House today. More than likely, there are interns, they have a summer job, they're going to be busy this summer, and God willing, they'll be busy when they go back to school and after school programs. We have to do everything we can to keep young people in school, to push them and encourage them to enjoy their education, to lead them to the lives that all of us in this room enjoy. So for that reason, I'm asking for you to adopt and vote out favorably Senate Bill 630-31, House Bill 1644, House Bill 1648, House Bill 1638, House Bill 1640, and House Bill 1639. These are bills that are not only sponsored by me and my colleague Benjamin Swan from Springfield, but also members of the Black and Latino caucus as well. Thank you so much for giving me this amount of time. I know that there are members from my community and throughout the Commonwealth that are ready to testify on 631 and all of the companion bills as well. Are there questions? Was that quick?
Thank you so much, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
Representative Paul.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. I'm here to speak in support of House 1191, an act relative to leasing of residential property. This bill would create an exemption on landlord tenant laws analogous to the current exemption for vacation homes. For a home that is rented out by a homeowner for whom is their primary residence, in the instance where the rental is less than a year. The reason I filed this bill is because of what can be described as only as a nightmare, which my constituents, Joan Legan and Alan Katzoff, from whom you're about to hear, will describe. I am mindful in filing this bill that Massachusetts has a wonderful tradition of protecting tenants' rights, and this bill in no way alters or undermines that. But my constituents will describe to you a horrendous experience they had with a bad-acting tenant when they went on sabbatical for a few months to Israel, and there was no legal protection for them. This bill is a simple solution to a horrendous problem, which I suspect many people in our state who leave for a few months and maybe rent out their home might run into. And so I hope you will support House 1191, and I would ask Ms. Legan and Mr. Katzoff to explain the reasons behind it.
Thank you. I'm testimony in support of House 1191, an act relative to the leasing of residential property. As you heard, this is to ask for an exemption from the landlord-tenant provisions of the landlord-tenant law, Chapter 15B, Section 186 of the General Law, for a situation such as a sabbatical situation where a short-term, less than 1 year or 1 year rental of one's furnished own home, one's primary residence. There's already been precedent for that. Vacation homes or exempt, second homes or vacation homes are exempt from the landlord-tenant law. My name is Joan Legan, and I'm a writer, and I'm an instructor, university instructor of creative writing, and a resident of Newton. In the fall of 2008, my husband and I rented out our house, completed all of our furnishings for a period of 6 months to an individual who happened to have been an attorney here in Massachusetts. We were going to Tel Aviv, where I was invited to teach at a university there for a semester. We created a basic lease, and we took a security deposit from the tenant and replaced the security deposit in a separate interest-bearing account that we understood we were required to do. And we left Tel Aviv with 2 suitcases and left all of our belongings in our home, from dishes to televisions to everything in our house. On day 31, following the receipt of the security deposit, the tenant emailed us in Tel Aviv demanding that we forfeit the security deposit in accordance with the law. And then he threatened to sue us for triple damages if we didn't do that. We didn't know this law, but we looked it up, and as written, I saw that the law was absolute. There was no recourse but to refund him the security deposit. This meant, of course, that we had no protection against damage to our house or any of our personal possessions, despite the fact that all of them were in our house with the available to the tenant's use. That security deposit has been applied to the second month's rent, and following that, the tenant promptly stopped paying the rent. He claimed he was in financial trouble. We offered to release him from the lease. He refused, and he threatened to sue us and said that we would not be living up to obligations and so forth. We tried through an intermediary at that point to work out a payment schedule with him. He paid one very small payment on it, and then he stopped paying. So then we spoke to a friend. We were overseas, a lawyer friend, who said he was speaking about maybe starting eviction proceedings, but this attorney friend told us by the time you start eviction proceedings, by the time they're over, your lease will be up, and on top of that, during the time when an eviction proceeding was pending, the tenant would have even less incentive to pay us any rent, and in addition might retaliate by smashing our belongings or doing anything like that. I should add at the same time that our 23-year-old son in California had been diagnosed with cancer, and we were considering going to California, bringing him back to Massachusetts to live with us to take care of him, but we did not think we would have a house. So we left Tel Aviv and we went to California. Eventually the tenant did leave, although he threatened to overstay. And he stayed over by about 2 weeks. When he left, we had $500 or $600 worth of cleaning to do, just to make the house habitable by someone else, but we lost many prospective tenants at that point when we were remaining in California. I would request that you would consider an exemption from the Massachusetts landlord tenant law along the lines of the exemption available to vacation homes. The original law, the intent of the law, as far as I understand it currently, is to protect against rapacious and exploited landlords who are in the business of real estate rentals, individuals like us or vacation renters are not. And as you heard Representative Walter say, the impact of this is considerable. Massachusetts has many academic institutions, lots of people, thousands of people who go away for short periods for sabbaticals and so forth. So I would respect your request that you consider this bill. Thank you. We respect your time, Mr. President, and hope you'll give this favorable consideration.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the committee? Thank you for your testimony. Representative Smyson? Representative Andrews?
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, and committee members. I'm here today to testify in support of Senate 741, an act to prevent farm animal cruelty. I also wish to testify against a similar matter, House 1456, due to the inclusion of language regarding egg-laying hens. I thank the co-sponsors of these bills and the advocacy groups who are here today in support of the effort to raise the issue of humane treatment of farm animals. Not unlike most of you, my office has received a number of communications from constituents urging support of this bill. As I understand the situation, both House 1456 and Senate 741, if passed, would have little impact on current farming operations across our state, but it would put in place the ability for those inhumane practices to ever take root here. We have a common objective, I believe, in trying to balance the humane and ethical treatment of animals with ensuring access to high-quality, locally produced food, as well as the preservation of family farms, and local economy. When I first arrived in the legislature, I heard about battery cages on chickens, and I thought the bill was the appropriate approach. Upon further research and due diligence, I feel very differently. And there's been progress made in that industry. Originally, 2 years ago, there would be 3 chickens in one cage with very little room. Today there's 1 with significant room. I support Senate 741, but cannot support 1456 because it puts more restrictions on egg-laying hens. I have the only small producer of eggs in the Commonwealth in my district. It's a third-generation business, and it produces some of the finest food. In Massachusetts, we import 98% of our eggs from out of state. This is a family business, generational. Touring them several times, I am confident about their balance between humane treatment of their animals and chickens, with providing excellent quality food, locally produced, and jobs to the area. I'll keep this short because of the number of bills that you have to hear, but please do not, as one of my colleagues said, the brevity of this, the importance is significant. To have locally produced eggs in ethically humane situations in our district and in the state is very important. I would like to invite any legislator who has concerns to join me in this forum. I think you'll see firsthand that the balance has been achieved, doing the right thing by the animals and also having a locally high-grade, locally produced food supply for our Commonwealth. So I ask you please to act favorably on Senate 741 and unfavorably on House 1456.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions? Thank you for your testimony. Next is Senator Jamie Eldridge. Senator Eldridge.
Good afternoon. I'm here to testify in support of Senate 1135, House 1613, an act to restore community trust in Massachusetts law enforcement. Ask the committee to give a strong consideration of the bill. I think the main thrust of this bill is the point that as our federal government is debating immigration reform in Washington, D.C., it likes to make sure that there are broken aspects of the way that law enforcement interacts with immigrants, whether those who are legal or whether those who are undocumented. Let's make sure we can pass our own form of state immigration reform here in Massachusetts. Why is this bill filed? What is the problem? Well, according to Track Immigration, of the 1 million immigration customs enforcement ICE holds that are issued in the last 4 years, these are issues to deport immigrants, 77% were issued on people with no criminal conviction. Now, ICE has a policy of only being focused on violent criminals, yet according to the most recent statistics, 77% of those who were issued or being ordered to be deported have no criminal record. So something is wrong with the system at the federal level, and I would respectfully ask the committee to consider whether the state should be working so closely with federal immigration officers if that system is so broken. Here in Massachusetts, we have a problem as well. As of December, only 45.6% of the 768 immigrants reported to the Secure Communities Program, which was adopted last May, had criminal records far below the national average. So I would argue we have an even greater problem here in Massachusetts, unfortunately, with state and local law enforcement communities. In Boston, according to a recent report, only about half of people reported on the program have been convicted of a crime, again, far lower than the national average of almost 74%. So what this bill would do, I believe, would improve relations between the Massachusetts law enforcement community and the different immigrant communities, many of whom are represented today. Specifically, the bill would limit the type of immigrants turned over to ICE to immigrants who are 18 and over and convicted of a serious crime. And this is all in reaction to the Secure Communities Program that the Obama administration required that every state adopt, including here in Massachusetts last May. Since its implementation last May, nearly 200 individuals have been deported through the Secure Communities Program. 60% of those people have committed no crime at all, and another 10% have committed civil violations. And so just to paint a picture is what this is doing to immigrant communities, whether those who are legal, whether those who are undocumented, or often families that are mixed status. It's creating a great deal of fear. It's creating a sense of distrust between immigrant communities and the police. It's creating a sense of fear of unwillingness to call the police about a crime that's either being committed against them or a member of their family or someone in that neighborhood. And that's leading to a situation where crimes are being committed in neighborhoods, especially with the high density of those who are foreign born, from having these crimes not being reported at all to law enforcement. I believe this program undermines the local work of Massachusetts police departments and drives a wedge between police officers and the constituents and communities they serve. And the Trust Act will ease that unfair burden currently placed on local governments, which I would add also creates a cost. And the bill would prevent the damaging effects of the program, including broken families and communities, damage to public safety, misuse of local resources, and unequal access to justice. In order to improve the lives of countless hardworking families in the Commonwealth and repair that trust between the law enforcement and the general community, whether those who are immigrants or the general population here in Massachusetts, I hope this committee reports this bill out favorably. I also just want to put myself on record in support of House 1589, Senate 643, an act relative to equal access in hospitals, public transportation, nursing homes, supermarkets, retail establishments, and all other places open to the public, otherwise known as the Equal Access Bill regarding transgender individuals. Thank you very much for taking that time.
Thank you, Senator. Are there any questions? Seeing none, thank you. Representative Chris Walsh, young Senator. Representative Charles Garcia. Representative Rushing and Representative Carvalho.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chairman, of the committee. I'm here to testify in support primarily of House 1589, the Equal Access Bill for transgender individuals. I appreciate the testimony we've heard so far, and we'll have the rest of the day. I do want to read the title once again, so that there's clarity of what the bill actually covers. It is an act relative to equal access in hospitals, public transportation, nursing homes, supermarkets, retail establishments, and all other places open to the public. I want to thank this committee, as well as all my colleagues that are here in 2011, when we passed the Transgender Equal Rights Bill. This is the crucial second step of that legislation. Because of our work on that committee and the legislature 2 years ago, it is now illegal to deny someone who's transgender housing or a job because of their gender identity. But the moment they go on a public sidewalk or a public bus or into any public building, restaurant, or establishment, they are not protected under our laws currently. And so while we should be grateful for the strides we've taken in this legislature in the last couple of years, we do have more work to do to make sure that transgender residents have full equal protection in all public spaces. As we have made great progress, I know we'll continue to work on this as well. I do want to also thank Senator Elder for her comments on House 2620, the Trust Act. I think this is an important piece of legislation to make sure that we can protect local area communities, unique access to local law enforcement services throughout the year. Also, I have further comments on that as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chairman, Mr. Chairman, committee members. I will be brief because there are many here today. I too am here to speak in support of the Trust Act, which is a bill that would require Massachusetts law enforcement to look at its priorities in enforcing detainer requests from ICE. I would point out that the federal requirement of detainers that has come down as the so-called Secure Communities Program has no congressional authorization. It is purely administrative. It has been put down as an administrative fiat on cities and towns. It undermines law enforcement within communities by creating distrust. And I've heard from many constituents who are pediatricians that it has very devastating effects in the children and families where a parent has been suddenly removed. I would speak also in support of the act to put the public accommodations piece into our protection of transgender individuals. it really makes no sense to have done what we have done in the last session in terms of establishing equal rights without the public accommodations piece. We require that there be no discrimination in the offering of credit, for instance, but the way to the bank and the bank building itself have no such protection. We require educational equality, but the educational establishments, the way to get there, whether by public way or public transit, is not subject to this protection. It really, these protections really have to be all of the piece, and I would hope that we would add that missing element. The last thing that I would encourage to the committee is to adopt House 1673, House 1592, and House 1591, all of these having to do with repealing archaic laws. I think if we are to expect the public to take our laws seriously, we have to signal that we take them seriously. And this includes having laws which are not clearly unconstitutional, laws which we can talk about with a straight face, laws that we would expect to be able to enforce. And I think laws that we would be willing to pass today in terms of some of these laws, for instance, against adultery or, against fornication, which are some of the statutes we would repeal. My 16-year-old said, this is a society where people complain about having surveillance cameras at traffic lights. Do we really think we can pass these laws now? I think not. And I think that needs to be an element of how we think about these statutes. I think that we have more, that the rule of law is improved if we have laws which people are able to respect, which do not represent a kind of hypocrisy, and which are capable of enforcement. I will submit all my other comments in writing, and I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. My name is Byron Bushing. I'm here to go on record for House 1589, along with my co-sponsor, Representative Santino, whose words were crisp and all of it I agree.
That was excellent. Just want to register in support of 1589. And I'm Representative Mary P. 50 Worcester, and I'm here to speak for House 2620. An important bill for our. Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the position? Thank you. Representative Nagel and Keith, are they ready for?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Chair, members of the committee, have a pleasant afternoon in front of you. I'll be brief. You've heard a lot of great testimony related with facts and figures, and I'm sure as you all do, you get plenty of emails and fact sheets, so I will speak briefly on 4 bills. First off, I too would like to vocalize my support of transgender bill 1589. I believe we need to continue being a leader in civil rights. We see many other states following our lead, and many things we do, and we need to continue being a leader in this. Also, I'd like to personalize the Trust Acts, House Bill 1684. I believe that this is very needed. I think that we do need to have access to this information that was brought up by the representatives. We need the process that gets to this information. And I think that as many of you probably have gotten lots of emails about this, and not just the form emails, but actual constituent emails, very much concerned about where the government's moving on how they apprehend our information. So I think that having probable cause and a clear process of how law enforcement can get the information is very much needed. The Trust Act, House Bill facts and figures more eloquently than I will. I just believe that this really creates meaningful relationships between law enforcement and our communities. This is very important. We have very many communities that are struggling from within. If they cannot trust the law enforcement that protects them, they'll never be able to fix the issues that they're facing. I have many, again, in my area, Western Mass, there's been a lot of large group activities and gatherings around this. There's been a march in Springfield where many people came out together in support of this. And I think that this gives us local control and keeps the community interest at heart, which is, of course, most important. And lastly, I'd like to speak in favor of House Bill 1644, Act to criminalize nonviolent and verbal student misconduct. I'm very lucky in Hampton County that we have a sheriff department that's very progressive and a TA that's very progressive and really works hard to keep youth out of jail, creating many programs for people that aren't incarcerated to come back out to the public or to really make sure that teens are not ending up in jail. But on the flip side, my community is also struggling. I have a 50% graduation rate, and 85% of those students who are not graduating are Latino, primarily Puerto Rican. They come from very interesting struggles and backgrounds that many of us can't relate to. And if the school is not a safe place for them, they're going to have no safe place. And so having structures in place to get alternatives to incarceration for nonviolent acting out, I think is very important. We need to make sure that our students are supported. Two quick examples. Dean Technical High School in my community is a level 4 school. One of the big things they turned around recently was not suspending kids anymore and not bringing the police in. 2 years ago, they had over 85 arrests on campus. Last year, with new administration and new policies in place to deal with these kind of issues, they only had the police come to the campus 13 times. Still not a number we want to have happen, but obviously much of a great increase and move in the right direction. There's ways for school districts to have mediators on campus, in the housing, in the schools to make sure that students have a place to talk. Lastly, I would say that in Hoyok we have what's called full-service community schools that brings in moderators, brings in service providers into the schools to make sure that the teachers are supported. Teachers have a lot on their plate, but can't necessarily be expected to take on all the actions of their students, so they're there, the support systems are there. So making sure that we actually have laws that support our teachers and encourage our students to stay in school, I think is very important. Thank you for your time. Good luck with the rest of the afternoon.
Thank you. Any questions?
Thank you very much. I'll try to be very brief. As the committee may know, I actually have 2 roles for the committee on hearing today. I promise I won't go through each and every one of them. All of these bills come out of my 30 years of experience in the criminal justice system. And there is one what I will call a big bill, and then several small bills, many of which have been suggested by justices of the training and engagement in court in terms of being able to more efficiently handle criminal cases there. What I will say for the big bill is House Bill 1474, an act to improve the criminal laws relative to organized retail theft. Retail theft in Massachusetts is a $30 billion a year problem. This is not simple shoplifting. This is organized retail crime where well-organized groups of individuals who travel from state to state can effectively clear out luxury retailers in large shopping malls. I have one in my district where they will go in and they will steal thousands and thousands of dollars worth of expensive handbags, expensive clothes, and then move on to the next shopping mall. This deprives the Commonwealth of Massachusetts millions of dollars a year in sales tax revenue, and it affects the safety and security of employees and consumers. Our larceny and our shoplifting laws haven't been updated in over 100 years, and they simply do not effectively reach the types of processes that these organized retail crime groups are doing right now. So that this bill updates them and creates new ways to prosecute these crimes, including the unlawful use of theft detection shielding or deactivation devices, theft using the emergency access to avoid apprehension and detection, theft with intent to resell in an online marketplace, and use of fraudulent holdings pursuant to alcohol. This bill was drafted with the help of an that is long overdue. In addition to that, there are significant public health concerns of this crime, because some of the most common items that are stolen and resold are baby formula, infant formula, cosmetics, personal care products, and non-prescription drugs and medical devices. This is a serious public health issue in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, and I'd ask that this committee acts favorably on this bill, House Bill 1474. In addition to that bill, I just want to highlight a couple of what I call the smaller bills that, quite frankly, I can't believe anyone would ever be opposed to. House Bill 1468, an act relative to the penalty for disorderly person. Currently, the bill, the current law, it only allows a $150 fine for crime of disorderly person. This bill would give disorderly person as a crime the option of a jail sentence. Why is that important? And this is something that district court judges are asking for. It's so you can put the people who commit this type of crime on probation, to effectively be able to give them some supervision. Not that they want to be incarcerated, but to give the probation officer. Then I have companion bills, House Bills 1469 and House Bill 1470, which would increase the threshold for larceny and for malicious destruction of property between a misdemeanor and a felony to raise it up from $250 to $1,500. Quite frankly, right now, to steal $250 worth of an item is a felony under Massachusetts law. This has been the law for years and years and years, and this would raise the threshold to make it from $1,500 or accurately reflecting modern society. In addition to those bills, and I'll submit written testimony on the rest of my bills, I would just like to be reported opposed, of course, to the reinstatement of the death penalty in Massachusetts, and I would like to be also recorded in opposition to the so-called women's rights no bill and in favor of the transgender rights bill. It's always a pleasure working with the members and the chairman and the new chairwoman of this new committee. As you know, I'm a former member of this committee, and I'm always interested in working on these issues, and I thank you for your patience.
Are there any questions from the
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. 475.
Thank you, Madam Chair, Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chairman, members of the committee. I'm here to offer my quick support for the Trust Act and for the Electronic Privacy Act, but the bulk of my testimony is two bills I filed, H 1497 and 1498. I brought Jason Ferentz from the town of Coleraine, which maybe nobody here has ever heard of before. He drove over 2.5 hours to get here. He brought this matter to my attention, and I'm going to allow him to speak on what was so important that led me to file these bills.
Good afternoon, members of the committee. My name is Jason Ferentz, as representative Mark told you. I'm chairman of the Board of Health of the town of Coleraine. And I'm speaking in support of House Bills 1497 and 1498. Recently, there's been a tide of complaints involving the impersonation of food inspectors in Massachusetts. And in my written testimony, I've attached alert messages from the Health and Homeland Alert Network, where the Department of Public Health warns of daily complaints of fraud involving impersonation of inspectors. fine for violating Chapter 268, Section 33, which is falsely assuming to be justices of the peace or other public officers, which was last adjusted at least in 1945, the adjustment for inflation from $400 up to $5,000. And its companion bill, House Bill 1498, would adjust for inflation Section 35 of the same chapter, which is the unauthorized use of the town seal to give a document of official character which does not possess it, or making or possessing the badge of the town officer. This is the only law that protects the official character of town seals and which prevents the misuse of badges of public office, including police badges. And this law definitely needs to be updated as the fine was last updated in 1902. Secondly, and I did not intend to testify on the subject of this bill when I came here today, but I happened to see it on the docket this morning and I felt that as a citizen I need to make some comment. I want to speak in opposition to House Bill 1209, an act relative to furnishing a false name, social security number, or address to a police officer when stopped or detained. This bill takes a statute that was primarily directed at identity theft by arrested persons and turns it into a general power to allow any police officer to demand that any person state their identity and home address if they are stopped on the street for questioning. Our Commonwealth possesses the oldest constitutional government in the world, which has endured for nearly 400 years. Through revolution and wars, we have never had a law such as this, even before the days of two-way radios and computer databases. Our Commonwealth has always been based on the principle that all citizens, whether they be a constable, sheriff, inspector, or mere citizen, are absolutely equal before one another, and that this entire body of citizens is then equal before the courts. If an unknown person is suspected of some wrongdoing, and the suspicion rises to probable cause, the remedy has always been for them to be placed under arrest and taken before a magistrate to be examined on a specific charge for which they were arrested, the citizen having no duty to speak or to give any account of themselves to anybody other than a judicial officer. We do have a few statutes requiring persons to identify themselves in limited circumstances, usually as part of a general regulatory scheme, such as operating a motor vehicle for which a license is required, or when an officer is about to issue a non-criminal citation for petty offenses. In such cases, refusal to state name and address is usually punishable either by a nominal fine or else by arrest on the underlying offense if the officer has probable cause to do so. On the street, the practical effect of this bill would be to turn police officers into inquisitors with enormous psychological leverage. Once forced to identify themselves, the uninformed citizen might fear that they might be singled out for future attention if they do not cooperate fully with the officer's other questions, further encouraging the citizenry to be submissive toward the executive branch, usurping functions that for generations have belonged strictly to the judiciary, and promoting feelings of inferiority and inequality when citizens face public officers. More and more, the badge of office is becoming less the tag of the servant and more the symbol of real power and authority over other citizens that can be exercised at will, a situation which must not be allowed to develop in a society of equals. Let judicial functions in position remain in the judiciary, and let all citizens remain equal before one another.
Yes, Representative.
I just have a quick question on that. So are you asserting that that the law would stay as it is, that it would just be a fine punishable by not more than $1,000 or house correction per year if it's post-arrest? So if they give a false identification after they've been arrested, there already is a law that takes care of that. You're saying that if they give a false address seconds before that, that should not be punishable?
I'm not sure that punishing a person for giving a false name necessarily should be punishable, and we already have a statute making it a crime to give false information to an officer who is investigating a crime. The major change in this law, which I oppose, is requiring a person to give their identity on suspicion of any crime, whether or not they're about to be arrested, whether or not
Okay, so that's what I guess that's what I was asking, because it already is a punishable offense if it's after you've been arrested and you give false information. You're just saying that it only should be an offense if, in fact, you've already been arrested.
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you.
The law, as it's written now, mostly relates to identity theft by arrested persons who offer false names, causing somebody else to obtain a criminal record.
Right. Okay, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Just gently remind everyone who's testifying before us to try and limit your comments to 3 minutes. That goes to my colleagues as well as to the members of the board here. Representative.
For the record, I'm Brian Bale, state representative from the 2nd Barnstable District. Like many of the other reps in the room today, I have multiple bills that I've sponsored and co-sponsored as well as co-sponsored and board of sponsored. I'm here to speak about 5 bills, persons in it, and we will try to be as brief as possible. The first is 1589, which an act relative to equal access in hospitals, public transportation, nursing homes, supermarkets, retail establishments, and all other places open to the public. I know that this has come before us in the form of amendments in the House Floor before, and I do just want to speak very briefly to you as members of the House. I know that you've received a lot of emails probably over the course of the past few months about this. Many of those, for some reason, originated from my district, people who are very much opposed to this, and then I've heard likewise from people who are very much in support of equal rights and civil rights for the transgender community. But I want to defer my comments on this to who is sitting to my right, friend, constituent. Her name is Erica K. Webster. She's the founder and board chair of the Foundation for International Justice. She's a veteran of the Stonewall Rebellion of 1969. And the international media spokesperson for the LGBT Compassion Games International. And I think we'll just hear what she has to say and give her respect. I think that's what she deserves.
Thank you, members of the Massachusetts Judiciary Committee. I was born July 6, 1950, in Long Beach, California. That makes me 63 years old today. I transitioned with surgery at 17 years old. From male to female. I have lived a very, very long time in my role as a woman in this country. When I was 14 years old, my family moved from Southern California, which was fully integrated, the schools and the churches I attended, to Marietta, Georgia, where my father was an aeronautical engineer. During our journey across the South, I was witness to seeing the signs in the businesses, the restaurants, the motels, the restrooms, the water fountains that said whites only. That was a full year after President Lyndon Johnson had signed the Civil Rights Act. In those days, blacks were viewed in very derogatory terms, the same as we as transgenders are viewed today. We were viewed as though we're some kind of disease that can be caught, or that we're some sort of sexual predator, that society needs to be afraid of us. In reality, we need to be afraid of society. At 15 years old, I had to run away from home due to the abuse of my family, my father specifically, because he would not accept me being a transgender child. For 1 year, I lived homeless on the streets, working in a restaurant, trying to survive as best I could. I attempted to go home, and I was given one option by my father, and that was to join the military. At 17 years old, I was inducted into the United States Marine Corps. That was the only branch of the service that would take me at 17. Several months into my enlistment in the Marine Corps, I was gang raped by 3 heterosexual men. Yet, we are still viewed as the perpetrators and as perpetrators. When in reality, this is fiction and is not fact. In 1998, I just want to back up one moment. When I reported the rape to my commanding officers when I was reported, I was offered no protection. I was told that if I reported it officially, I would be dishonorably discharged for homosexual activity. Because in those days, no one understood what transgender was. Not one iota. I attempted suicide. In fact, before my 17th birthday, was 2 suicide attempts. Because of the guilt and the shame and the embarrassment and the humiliation that was forced upon me. I accepted a less than honorable discharge because I was put back into the same barracks with the same men to do this all over again. I have lived a life that has been extremely productive. I'm a professional woman. By the time I was 40 years old, I had an income in excess of 6-figure income, in excess of $100,000 a year, through sheer determination on my part to rise above all adversity. I have witnessed transgenders being